the podcast that is dedicated to what the people want. You guys tell me the topics, I talk about it, you guys give me the feedback. Let's go. All right, here we are. The third episode of Milt's Coaching Corner. I'm just so happy to be here with you guys today and be able to share my perspective on this subject that was brought up by my good friend, Miss Riri, off of TikTok. Now, Miss Riri says, why is it that we, you know who we is, you black folks, why is it that we have a hard time supporting, loving on one another, and doing what is, well, some of us deem is right, based upon our own precepts of treating your skin folk as your kinfolk. So let's jump into it. When you look at history, black people across many different ages and many different times have been through so much turmoil. And when I say black, I'm talking about black Americans. We've been through a lot of turmoils. We've had a lot of ups. We've had a lot of downs, misconceptions, mishistory, things that have not been necessarily conceptually true, things that have not necessarily been conveyed correctly across our culture and across our way. And because of this, what has happened is the quote unquote monkey or chain effect. Once something is passed down from generation to generation, sometimes it loses its effect because the original storyteller or the original person who went through said thing went through it, but as it gets down to you, sometimes it gets diluted, and sometimes it really gets exaggerated. So let's dive into why is it that most of the time when it comes to black people, we do not support each other. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you for everybody who has tuned in, and thank you for everybody who's continuously showing love. Now, black people, one of the hardest things conceptually that we've had to come to understand as far as in America is that there is no American dream. The dream is what you make it. And that dream normally comes with you having to walk through a line of somebody who is of opposition to you. And because we have that mindset, because of the fact that is a truth for us, then most of the time what ends up happening is a survival of the fittest effect. The survival of the fittest effect comes upon us because we believe that we are the one who has to make it out. We believe that we are the one who has to do that special thing. We believe that we are the one who has to be the leader. We have to have a million Martin Luther Kings. We can't just have one. We have to have a million Malcolm X's. We can't just have one. But when we look at Martin Luther King and we look at Malcolm X, we also miss the numerous amount of people who were just as pivotal and just as important to that time, as far as with civil rights, as far as with fighting for our rights, and as far as for building what is the black community. Now, when it boils down to it, us in America, we try to trace our history back, and we only can think about the 400 years of detriment, the 400 years of overall, I just want to say 400 plus years. I don't want to repeat what everybody said. 400 plus years of detriment, turmoil, and overall misplacement. Now, the biggest take that I've always had when it comes to us supporting each other is that how can we support what we don't even know what is or who is? So sure, I may share the same skin as you, but I don't know who and what you are. What I mean by that is I look at you, you're a black man, you're a black woman, or whatever you want to deem yourself as. But how would I know that you're on my team? Just because we have the same skin. How do I know that we are fighting and vying for the same things? I don't. And so black people suffer because we're constantly either fighting between imposter syndrome or we're fighting between, I don't even know who has my back. Maybe I should be a loner. Oh, you know what? Let me compete. There's no competition. There's no winner. The winner comes when we win. There's only losers when it comes down to one winning. So black people overall don't support one another because it just boils down to the fact that we don't want to. The harshest reality that I've had to face is this. No matter how I like to shake it or move, there is a psychological warfare. There's a mental warfare that has won in our community for some time. Most black people are a monolith when it comes to accepting each other. We're a monolith when it comes to understanding what is and what is not black. If you're not doing this, then you definitely aren't black. If you don't agree with this, you ain't black. If you don't eat this, you ain't black. If you don't talk like this, you ain't black. But my thing is, black to me is black. I don't care if you grew up around whatever you grew up around or whatever environment you come from, you are still black. Now, mentally, what happens is we become disassociated with who we are because we don't understand what we are in totality. It kind of ties into what I've always kind of talked about on this podcast, knowing who you are. So if I just define myself as a black man, or I'm just black, right? That means that I will also have to define what other people see as black, versus seeing that, yes, I am a black man, but I'm a black man who loves art. I'm a black man who loves whatever I love or whatever I'm into. And I should be able to go to another black person and be accepted based upon the factor that I am black and I like what I like and I dislike what I dislike. But what happens is we start to section ourselves off in order to try to build community. But the natural human response is to not be closed in or not be subjugated to being caged, which is why there is a mishap when it comes to telling that story of how our ancestors were, as if to think our ancestors were one to just get on the ship like nobody fought back. So it is not just, hey, why don't we support each other? The biggest question that I've always had is, why don't we know who we are? That's not on some kumbaya. Ooh, if we all just knew who we were, we would all join hands. That is based upon the fact that, why don't we know who we are? Because if we knew exactly who we are and what we are, then who could tell us or who could come in and subjugate us to anything but what we are? We wouldn't accept things within our ranks amongst each other. We wouldn't accept things amongst people who come in and try to differentiate us or make us turn against one another, which has happened. Capitalism within itself does that, making it where you are vying for money. You're vying for attention. Now, Miss Riri brings up this question because of the fact me and her follow each other on TikTok, and we have for some time. I'm a black man. She's a black woman. She's had her share amount of beefs on there, and I've had some black folks come to me and say different things to me, and it's always around, why don't you follow me? Why don't you support me? Why don't you give me attention? And I've always told every black person that I've encountered who's done that, do you give that to yourself, like outside of this app? Do you love yourself outside of this app? Are you willing to be honest enough with yourself to say, hey, I give myself attention. I don't necessarily need attention from Milt. Or some black people, I've been challenged by a lot of black women. My brother, I come on your page and I show it a lot of love, and you don't come on my page. Ladies, and these black women who ask me that or say that to me, I go on their page and most of the things they have on their page is provocative. I'm not necessarily into that as a black man. I've always tried my best to respect black women in the most utmost form. I have failed at that in many regards. I still try my best, especially with those I don't know, right? Like, I don't know you, why am I, whatever, right? That's not assumptive to think that, oh, the ones you do know, you disrespect. No, it's just, if it's all provocative or if it's something that I shouldn't necessarily be looking at you in the light of, I'm not going to necessarily get behind that and support that. That's based upon my morality. That's based upon what I think, who I am, and what I am. It has nothing to do with me not supporting you because you're black. It has everything to do with where I stand. And I am also black. Now, sure, I could come on your page and be fake, or sure, I could fakely interact with you. But what happens is that is already happening amongst our community, which is where the imposter syndrome comes from. You have a lot of people who are amongst us who don't feel like they belong because they don't fit into the narrative or fit into the actions or fit into what is deemed black and what is not black. And the biggest shame to all of that is that what is black and what is not black, who defines that besides us, right? But when the definitions are coming from people who don't even understand that there are different variations of the same thing, and it is that thing, right? Then it becomes a monolith, which means that nobody has a place. So how can then we support one another if we all feel misplaced? So if you feel misplaced and I feel misplaced and she feel misplaced and whatever the case may be, then guess what ends up happening? Competition. So we cannot kumbaya, come together, be one, because we don't even know the different variations of each other. To understand that you as a human being, period, your personality, your mentality, the things you've experienced, all of that makes you who you are. So why is it when it comes to being a black man or a black woman, now it becomes, no, that doesn't make you black. You must be white. You must be this. Girl, you don't eat this, or you don't eat fried chicken. Maybe I don't like the taste. Maybe I can't stomach grease. It ain't got nothing to do with being black or white. It has everything to do with what makes me up as I am. My pigmentation matters in Western society. In Western society mentalities. And what we have been lost in the sauce on is the fact that all of this, majority of this, is spiritual and psychological warfare. And we've been losing at it because we come at it or try to combat it by having a good time with it or putting a band-aid on it instead of attacking it where it is, right? A lot of us would like to say, well, we were ignorant back in the day. Well, I would beg to differ, because there's a lot of people who I've known, especially the elders in my family and elders that I've met in other families, that also have the wisdom to say the things that I'm saying, but they're saying it amongst their family. They don't have a podcast that they can go on, right? They don't have somebody to go spread that to, but the resounding sound is that we don't know. Yeah, we this, you know, a brother gonna be a brother. But that is not necessarily what should be resounding amongst us. So the reason most of us don't know how to support is because once we saw Malcolm X get shot down, once we saw Martin Luther King, we automatically take the defeatist attitude. Notice anytime it happens to another one of us, it's automatically the defeatist attitude. Instead of looking at it and saying, wait a minute, they're doing that in order to gain said control or keep us in a loop of emotionalism. New president comes, emotionalism. New shoes, emotionalism. Everything is tied around your brain. And if somebody can control your environment, they can control your mind, control how you think, how you look at stuff, then they literally can control you, black man, black woman. And the only way you break free of that is not just being, fake woke and all this kind of stuff, but literally taking the opportunity to go outside the box and do things that are not necessarily seen as within the box of black or white, to really establish what being black is. And a lot of times you don't know what being black is because you won't extend yourself beyond what you have been limited to think what being black is in America. How can you tell me what black is? How can black people support one another if we don't know what that overall is? It's a sad day that we are under spiritual and psychological attack and have been. But what we fight back with is nothing. Listen, online activism is as good as me throwing my house shoe at my shoe. My house shoe at this camera. Online activism is as good as getting a like on a post. Activism, taking a stand, doing things that are correct, means that you go to where things are actually happening. The way the world works is not through our cell phone. The way the world works is through legislation, right? Judicial branches, parliaments. That's the way the world works. We're so busy online making noise, and then they come to where we are and don't listen to our noise. They say, peons. Let us make the noise. Now, when they come and say what they say, they distract us from what we should be doing, which is telling them, hey, I know you want my vote, but you don't deserve it based upon the fact that you, my friend, still don't know what black is, because we also allow them to dictate who and what black is. So it would behoove us to then take back control of what we are by extending ourselves beyond what we're said to be, whether that be by a black person, a white person, any person on these Western lands, to extend ourselves beyond, not doing it. You talk white, doing what we do, what we honestly like to do, what's in our hearts to do, beyond what anybody could ever try to clamp us down. And then that in itself would garner support based upon the fact of authenticity and extending yourself to being your best self without extending yourself within a box. You're still going to hit the ledge. So get outside of it, look in it and say, that's what I was stuck in. It ain't just about getting out the hood. It ain't just about reaching back to the hood. Let me pull my boy up. It's about extending yourself and understanding there's an entire world out here. And if we are, from what I've been hearing, the kings and queens, right? If that's who we are, why do we only king and queen within a box, or only extend ourselves to what that box says a king and queen is supposed to look like, act like, or do? If you're a king and queen, then don't you establish who and what you are. A true king, queen, knows who they are, and is not established by anybody or anything. They take their environment and they cultivate it, versus taking their environment and allowing their environment to pretty much tell them how to be. And only thing they do is to get popularity, right? Through listening. If you're hearing what I'm saying, they get popularity by answering the environment, when the environment will shift on them. And then when it shifts on them, the environment leaves them behind. And now they find themselves not knowing who they are, because they all they did was make people the bane of their existence. You cannot live your life according to anyone but you. When you die alone. You may have somebody next to you, sure, but when you go, it's just you. Now, black folks, do not limit yourself. Have your black experience, but go out there and be a black person that does what they want to do. You're not limited to an American dream. You're not limited to nothing. Now, I get it. Some people may not have made it to this part. So they like, oh, he's just talking to black folks. This can go for any race of folks. This can go for anybody. Don't limit yourself to nothing. It don't matter what the culture says you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to be, think, breathe, eat, crap. I don't care. Do what comes to your heart to do. I am begging y'all to do that. Begging you, do what comes to your heart. Seriously. And if you don't know how to do that, then we'll talk about that on the next episode. Thank you guys so much for listening in to this podcast. Next episode, as you heard, will be on that. Every episode that I drop is based upon comments that I get. Like I told you, you guys give the feedback. I do the topic. And you guys give me more feedback. Yeah. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we're here. Much love to y'all. Let's go and support one another and do it based upon the fact that you genuinely want to do it. Yeah. Let's change up the narrative. Hey, look. God bless you guys. Much love. Peace. Love. Chicken grease. Milt's Coaching Corner. Signing out.